Unlock miraculous financial blessings. 7. Divine secrets for supernatural abundance revealed. Sarah stood at the chapel, her heart pounding with anticipation. Just last week, during an intense prayer meeting, Pastor Matthew had declared with fervor, "Unlock miraculous financial blessings. 7. Divine secrets for supernatural abundance revealed." Those words sent shivers down her spine as though heaven itself had cracked open. She could almost feel the weight of divine favor cascading down upon her, ready to lift her from the shadows of despair that enshrouded her family since her husband's sudden job loss. The atmosphere in the little chapel was electric, charged with the fragrance of burning candles and the soft murmur of prayer. Sarah could sense something monumental stirring in the air. Eyes closed in reverence, she called upon Saint Joseph, the patron saint of workers, pleading for guidance and miraculous relief. As she prayed, tears brimmed in her eyes, each drop a testament to her unwavering faith. Then it happened. A flickering light illuminated Pastor Matthew's face, and his voice pierced through the stillness, declaring that these divine secrets were a beacon of hope for all who believed. The first few revelations touched her heart. In vivid detail, he spoke of abundance, overflowing like loaves and fishes, of debts dissolving like clouds before the sun. He painted a scene so radiant that Sarah imagined gold coins raining from the heavens as the congregation gasped in awe. After the gathering, she rushed to share the miraculous news with her friends. "Listen, I received divine secrets," she exclaimed, her heart racing with hope. Instead of reverence, the air thickened with skepticism. "Come on, Sarah, you can't seriously believe that," one friend scoffed, while others exchanged doubtful glances. The once supportive atmosphere turned bitter, and for the first time, Sarah felt isolation wrap around her like a chilly blanket. But her spirit refused to bend that easily. With fierce determination, she clung to the teachings, ready to implement each one with obedience. Yet every time she opened her pantry, its emptiness echoed back, mocking her efforts. Bills loomed large, and Sarah wrestled with decisions that threatened to compromise her family's values. The whispers followed her. "Why not just take that job? It pays well." The strain pulled at her heart, tugging her closer to despair. Just when her resolve began to crumble, a familiar face appeared at her door. Emily, her long-lost friend, radiant with hope and joy, stepped into her life again. Emily shared her own story of miraculous financial intervention, recounting how she prayed fervently and soon saw doors swing wide open. "Miracles happen, Sarah, when we let faith guide us," she said, igniting a spark within Sarah that she thought had faded. But just as Sarah felt her spirits lift, chaos struck. An unexpected storm rolled through the village, fierce and relentless. Rain lashed against her windows, similar to the doubts lashing against her heart. She stood at her front door, heart racing, contemplating not just her family's future, but the faith of her entire village. Could they turn to God when circumstances seemed impossible? Could the very secrets she struggled to implement hold the key to communal miracles? As the thunder clapped above, Sarah felt a stirring within, a question ignited like a flame. If she persisted in faith, could she inspire a miracle that would change lives not just for her family, but for the whole community? The storm raged outside, but inside her heart surged with determination and divine revelation. She drew a deep breath, vowing to trust despite the storm's roar. Yet still, the harsh whispers of doubt lingered. With every passing second, she stood on the brink of a decision that could alter everything. As the tempest howled outside, Sarah's heart raced not just from fear, but from a growing sense of purpose. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her, heavy with possibility. Her eyes wandered to the small altar, where a flickering candle danced defiantly in the chaos, and she felt a pull. Perhaps this storm was more than a harbinger of trouble. Perhaps it was a crucible for transformation. Focusing on her breath, she whispered, "God, give me strength." The air felt electric, thick with expectation. What if her own challenges could serve as a conduit for hope? Could her faith not only rally her family, but also sway a community soaked in uncertainty? She realized this was not just about her. It was about every person in the village who had lost hope, who battled their own storms. Her thoughts lingered on Emily's words, a lifeline thrown amid the swirling currents. "Miracles happen," Emily had said with a radiant spark in her eyes. Encouraged by this, Sarah envisioned each family in her close-knit community standing arm in arm, braving the tempest together, fortified by faith. Gathering her dignity like a shield, she made her way to the chapel. Each step felt sacred, echoing down the empty street paved with puddles reflecting bursting clouds. She could hear the storm raging around her, but with every footfall, doubt sought to displace itself, slipping further into the shadows. Upon reaching the chapel, she flicked on the lights, illuminating the sacred space where she found solace. Kneeling at the altar, she closed her eyes again, surrendering her fears and aspirations. In that moment, she envisioned abundance, not just for her family, but for all. She prayed fervently, recalling the divine secrets she had learned. "May our hearts open to receive," she pleaded, "and our hands be filled as we share." Outside, the storm began to lighten. The rain shifted from a downpour to a gentle sprinkle, as if in response to her prayers. Inspired, Sarah dashed through a crowded corner of her mind, combining the revelations she had gathered to create a plan. She would host a gathering, a community prayer meeting to invoke divine blessings together. As she rushed home, ideas flooded in. She envisioned a sea of familiar faces united in a chorus of faith. They could pray for provision and protection, lifting each other up as the storm transformed into a tapestry of shared hope. With a new fire igniting her spirit, she immediately set to work, preparing to spread the word. By evening, Sarah had sent out messages and gathered supplies to make the chapel welcoming. Each candle she lit brought warmth and light into the space, whispering promises of faith. The thought of her neighbors joining her filled her with exhilarating joy. As twilight settled and the sky turned to hues of gray and gold, she stood at the chapel entrance, waiting for the first familiar face to arrive. With each passing minute, her excitement mingled with anxiety. What if no one showed? What if their doubts overshadowed her faith? But just as she prepared to dispel that fear, a figure emerged from the darkness, then another and another. Her heart swelled with gratitude. A growing number of villagers stepped into the warm glow of the chapel, ready to carry their burdens together. In that moment, Sarah realized this was the essence of faith. It wasn't her own light she sought to share, but the collective illumination that arises when a community comes together. They were destined not just for individual miracles, but a communal awakening. As they gathered in prayer, the energy in the room shifted. Hope blossomed, weaving itself around them. Every heart beat with unity. Every voice carried a purpose. Sarah felt herself rising above every fear, her spirit exultant, her faith transformed. Yet still, as they prayed, another storm seemed to brew inside her, a realization that there was more to this journey. The blessings they sought might manifest in ways they never expected. What divine surprises awaited them next? As Sarah opened her heart wider, she wondered, what is the next step on this divine path? How would their faith lead them to a harvest of miracles? In the soft glow of the chapel, the atmosphere hummed with quiet anticipation. As Sarah opened her eyes after the fervent prayer, she was struck by the unity surrounding her. No longer did she feel alone in her mission. Each face in the room was a mirror of hope, reflecting back the light she sought to amplify. The villagers took their places in the pews, murmuring words of encouragement. Old Mrs. Thompson, with her silver hair and gentle smile, reached for Sarah's hand. "We're ready," she said, her voice a tender bell ringing through the air. That simple affirmation sparked a fire within Sarah's heart. "Tonight," Sarah began, her voice steady and warm, "we gather not just to seek blessings, but to weave a tapestry of gratitude and faith. Together, we will invite God's abundance into our lives." The crowd murmured in agreement, a ripple of excitement flowing through each person present. As they prayed collectively, Sarah led them through various scriptures, drawing from the well of God's promises. They recited verses about provision, healing, and community, their voices rising and falling like waves crashing against the shore. Sarah felt the energy build, a palpable strength swirling through the group. "Remember," she proclaimed, "our faith can move mountains." A chorus of amens erupted spontaneously as villagers clutched one another's hands tightly, their eyes glistening with shared fervor. Then, as if summoned by their shared spirit, a gentle light began to emanate from the altar. Sarah turned, awed. The flickering candles seemed to flicker with greater intensity, their flames stretching higher as if responding to their devotion. "Look!" a child gasped, pointing at the light. "The candles—" "There's something in the air," someone whispered, and the crowd hushed, transfixed by the spectacle unfolding before them. Sarah's heart raced. The warmth of hope washed over her like a wave. "This is just the beginning," she proclaimed, and a surge of faith washed over the congregation. "Let us share our dreams and desires and watch as God's hand guides us." One by one, villagers stood to share their hearts. Young men spoke of starting small businesses. Mothers offered prayers for their children's future. An elderly man, trembling yet strong, spoke of healing both physical and financial struggles. Stories interwove within the space, creating a rich tapestry of human experience, each voice adding its unique thread. As they continued to uplift one another through prayer, Sarah felt knots of anxiety untangle within her. Together, they were shaping a fortress of faith, a sanctuary where miracles could flourish. "Faith," she whispered to herself, "is the foundation we stand upon." With each prayer, Sarah reminded them of their collective power. Just when Sarah thought the gathering could reach no greater heights of zeal, a voice broke through, a clear, resonating tone. It was Emily, standing boldly, heart ablaze. "What if," she asked, "our gathering could reach beyond our fears? What if our faith led to financial blessings that could uplift our entire village?" A hushed silence fell over the room. Sarah could feel the question hanging in the air, heavy with divine possibility. Outside, the rain had completely ceased, and faint stars peeked through the stormy remnants of clouds. The air smelled fresh, brimming with a kind of promise that whispered, "New beginnings await." "God can open doors we never imagined," Sarah encouraged, her eyes sparkling with inspiration. "Our needs can become seeds of abundance." The crowd buzzed with excitement. Hope had taken root, and their faith felt like the mighty river flowing out of them. They began envisioning the miracle they could create together. As the evening drew to a close, a sense of unity enveloped them all. Each villager left with renewed spirits, ignited by future possibilities, yet an undeniable truth weighed heavily on Sarah's heart. What would open up if they were to dare to dream in unison of things beyond mere survival? As she closed the chapel doors, she stood in contemplative silence, wonder blooming within her. Perhaps this divine journey was only beginning, leading them down a path where every heart beat in rhythm towards miraculous blessings. What was the next divine revelation waiting just beyond their reach? Would their commitment lead them to an unseen abundance that could transform their village and their lives? The following morning, the sun poured golden rays through the windows of Sarah's small home, illuminating the dusty pages of her journal. She had awakened with a heart still throbbing from last night's vibrant gathering. The memory of shared dreams and fervent prayers danced in her mind. With a mug of tea warming her hands, Sarah settled at the kitchen table, the scent of the drink merging with the early morning air. A whisper of excitement filled her spirit. She recognized that the seeds they had planted in collective faith were yearning for nurturing. But how? As she sipped her tea, Sarah envisioned the villagers, each person unique yet intertwined in purpose. They were not merely a community, they were a living testament of hope, embodying the transformative power of faith. Gathering her thoughts, she began jotting down everything that stirred within her heart. God, she penned, I feel an urgency to act. We must lead by example, showing that faith ignites the fire of provision. In the midst of her reflection, a knock on her door startled her. It was Mrs. Thompson, bright-eyed and curious. "Good morning, dear. I couldn't help but feel the energy from last night still echoing in the village," she chimed, stepping inside. "Me too," Sarah replied, her heart lifting. "I'm thinking we should call another meeting. We need to continue this momentum. Perhaps we can create a plan together." Mrs. Thompson's face lit up. "Oh, how wonderful! What if we draft a proposal for the community? We could meet with all the hardworking locals, discuss their dreams, and see how we may support one another. Imagine sharing resources and talents in creative ways." "Yes," Sarah exclaimed, eyes sparkling with inspiration. "A network of generosity and innovation. We could create small groups focused on different needs like education, agriculture, and crafts." As they brainstormed, a warm glow filled the room. The skeptical doubts that sometimes lurked in Sarah's mind were melted by the fire of inspiration igniting between them. Each idea blossomed like vivid flowers under the sun, encouraging, nurturing, fruitful. Word soon spread, and enthusiasm spread through the village like wildfire. Villagers gathered at the chapel that evening, their excitement humming in the air. Sarah stood before them once more, heart swelling with fervor. "Let us nurture our dreams together. We've tasted hope, and now it's time to cultivate it into reality." Cheers erupted from the crowd. It was a beautiful harmony. Each voice joined in celebration of possibility and abundance. As they shared ideas, stories emerged of struggling tradespeople, parents seeking apprenticeship opportunities for their children, and artists yearning to showcase their work. Amidst the fervor, Sarah felt compelled to share an idea born in her heart. "What if," she began, pausing for effect, "we started a community marketplace? A place where talents and creations could thrive, where we could support one another's businesses while drawing in visitors to our village." An electrifying hush filled the air before a chorus of excitement broke out. One by one, hands shot up to contribute. Ideas for food stalls, craft booths, and live performances. Yet, amidst the enthusiastic chatter, Sarah sensed a flicker of doubt remaining in some eyes. How could they build this vision? Were resources truly available? With a firm heart, she reminded them, "Our faith lays the foundation. God has a purpose for each of us. Trust that He will provide." As the meeting drew to a close, moments of laughter and shared dreams hung in the air like fragrances from a blooming garden. Sarah left the chapel, invigorated yet contemplative. The path of faith was not merely linear. It curved and twisted, filled with moments of uncertainty. How could they transform vision into reality when tangible resources felt out of reach? As she turned the corner, the last vestiges of twilight painted the sky, a rich canvas of stars appearing. With every step, she pondered what miracles still lay ahead on this journey. What challenges might arise that could test their newfound commitment? And what unexpected blessings would God reveal on their way to abundance? That night, under a blanket of whispers from the stars, Sarah struggled to rest. Her mind buzzed with hopes and dreams, yet a knot of worry twisted in her stomach. The images of the villagers filled her thoughts, eager faces searching for change, hearts yearning for growth. There was a weight in her spirit, a pressing sense that the journey ahead required more than mere wishes and plans. As dawn broke, Sarah rose with the sun, determined to find clarity. She made her way to the chapel, a place that had become her refuge and source of strength. Pushing open the heavy doors, she was greeted by the familiar scent of polished wood and old hymnals, a fragrant reminder of the countless prayers lifted within those walls. "God," she whispered, kneeling at the altar. "I feel an urgency. I know you've called us to this venture. But how? Show us the way." In silence, she waited, listening for an answer. The stillness enveloped her like a soft embrace, and in that serene moment, a thought flickered in her heart. What if the key to unlocking resources lay not just in their efforts, but in their willingness to open their hearts to each other? With renewed purpose, she left the chapel. She envisioned gatherings not just of ideas, but gatherings of vulnerability, where villagers could share their fears alongside their dreams. They could pray together. Imagine the strength in unity. Later, she found Mrs. Thompson tending to her garden. "What if we combine our meetings with a day of sharing?" Sarah proposed, her excitement bubbling over. "Everyone brings something to share, a story, a talent, even a simple dish. We could gather, bond, and pray for what we need. The community's heart might just provide the answer." Mrs. Thompson's eyes sparkled. "Oh, that's brilliant. It's about building trust, right? If we stand together, sharing burdens and blessings alike, can you imagine what God might do?" Sarah smiled, feeling the warmth of that truth course through her. They began planning for a community gathering, one that would embrace fellowship and the grace of connection. The community buzzed again with excitement in the days leading up to the event. On the chosen day, villagers filled the chapel, bringing not only food and stories, but their hopes and fears, laid bare before one another. It was a sight of pure beauty, hearts laid open, souls intertwining in the spirit of brotherhood. As they shared meals and laughter, a deep bond was woven through stories told between bites. A farmer shared how drought had threatened his crops, while a seamstress revealed the challenges of providing for her children. Together, they prayed for one another. It was as if a divine wind began to blow, gently stirring the hearts and unleashing creative solutions. In that sacred atmosphere, Sarah saw a miraculous transformation. People who had once felt isolated suddenly connected, their burdens halved by shared faith. The seamstress offered the farmer some fabrics, while the farmer promised to provide fresh produce for her family. As they prayed together, the air buzzed with an undeniable sense of purpose. They were not just individuals. They were a divine tapestry woven by God's grace. Yet even in this beautiful unity, a subtle tension lingered. Sarah pondered the countless voices still unspoken and the dreams that had yet to see the light of day. Where would their journey lead next? What divine revelations awaited those who dared to reach out in faith and unity? With the sun setting behind them, they embraced the uncertainty and looked toward the horizon of possibilities. Little did they know, God's surprises were just beginning to unfold. As twilight descended, the villagers lingered, reluctant to part ways. They could feel something special in the air, something that hinted at even greater transformations. Conversations flowed freely, and laughter echoed through the chapel, filling every corner with life and hope. Sarah stood back, observing the tender connections being forged. It filled her heart with gratitude. Each smile, each shared story was a testament to the power of community. The chapel, once a simple refuge, had become a garden for their souls, a space where seeds of faith could be sown. But beneath this joyful atmosphere, Sarah still sensed that something deeper awaited discovery. She caught sight of a young man, Thomas, sitting alone at the back. He wore a frown, seemingly lost in thought. With a gentle heart, she approached him. "Thomas, is everything all right?" He looked up, surprise flickering across his face. "I don't know, Sarah. I'm happy for everyone, but I feel stuck. My dreams seem so far away, and I'm not even sure if I'm meant for anything more." Her heart ached for him. With empathy, she replied, "It's okay to feel lost sometimes. Remember, even in times of uncertainty, God has a beautiful plan for each of us. Have faith that the community is here for you. You're not alone." He nodded, taking in her words. But Sarah could tell he needed more. She paused, sensing the stirring of the spirit. How about leading a discussion for us next time? You have a unique perspective. Your thoughts could inspire others who feel the same way. A flicker of hope ignited in his eyes. Really? You think I could do that? Absolutely. Your story matters, and sharing it could be the key to unlocking encouragement and faith in others. God has gifted us all with unique treasures, she encouraged, feeling a surge of purpose. As they spoke, Sarah noticed the chapel doors creak open, a gentle wind wafting in, almost as if the divine was weaving itself through their gathering. With a sense of divine calling, she turned her gaze to the windows, where silhouettes darkened the evening light. The children of the village playing, their laughter rippling like a holy song through the sacred space. A thought struck her. "What about involving the children in our next gathering?" she said, her excitement mounting. "They can share their art, their crafts, their innocent dreams. They might see things we overlook and remind us of a faith that can move mountains." Thomas's eyes brightened as he began to articulate how they could invite parents and children's stories side by side. The idea blossomed with vigor, igniting a spark that fired the hearts of others nearby. Soon, the air filled with conversations buzzing about youth, creativity, and unity. The energy in the chapel shifted again, now pulsating with potential. What had once been just a gathering of adults transformed into something that promised a rich tapestry of voices, children, mothers, fathers, all woven together through shared hopes and prayers. In that moment, Sarah felt the weight of her earlier worries lift. Perhaps their unity did not just hold their dreams, but also the realization of greater possibilities. But just as quickly, a shadow crossed her mind. What risk would they face as they pulled together their hopes? Would they be ready to embrace the unknown? As the last remnants of sunlight painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, Sarah whispered a prayer. She felt the anticipation building for what would come next. What surprises awaited this community, now bursting with shared dreams? Standing in the center of the chapel, she turned to the villagers and asked, "Are you ready to walk this journey together, to explore the paths God is preparing for us?" Their response washed over her like a tide. Yes. Together, they could dive deeper into faith and uncover divine provision. But what challenges would arise as they dared to step forward into this shared destiny, and what treasures would they discover along the way? As dawn peeked over the horizons of the village, a soft light filled the chapel. It was a new day, but the embrace of the previous evening's gathering still lingered in the air. The villagers were eager to see each other again, anticipation shimmering like the dewdrops on the grass outside. Sarah arrived early, a sense of purpose nestled deeply in her heart. The smell of fresh bread wafted through the air as some early risers prepared treats for their gathering. Their hands worked tirelessly, each loaf and pastry a symbol of their dedication to the community. She could hear laughter already bubbling from the kitchen, the warmth of togetherness wrapping around her like a familiar coat. As the others began to filter in, Sarah noticed a mix of nervousness and excitement on Thomas's face. He was by the corner, fidgeting with his hands. Clearly, he was grappling with his new role. Stepping forward, she offered him a reassuring smile. "You're going to do great today. Remember, you're not alone up there," she said, gently placing her hand on his shoulder. "Thanks, Sarah. I just hope I can inspire someone, or at least share something that resonates," he replied, his voice trembling slightly. "You will, Thomas. You're filled with insights that others need to hear. Just share from your heart." "That's where the real connection lies," she encouraged, her confidence in him uplifting his spirit. As the gathering commenced, villagers began to settle into their seats, buzzing with an infectious enthusiasm. The children were seated at the front, their eyes wide with wonder and excitement, eager to share their crafts. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Thomas took a deep breath, stepping up onto the makeshift stage. "Hello, everyone," he started, his voice steadying as he spoke. "I've struggled with my dreams feeling distant, but lately I've realized that we all have something valuable to contribute. Whether it's through our stories, our dreams, or even our crafts, every bit of us can uplift others. Encouraged murmurs rippled through the crowd as he continued to share his heart. He spoke about faith, about vulnerability, and how sharing one's burdens could lighten the load for someone else. The kids listened intently, their faces reflecting the innocence and excitement of sharing. As the discussions flowed, each child introduced their artwork: paintings of sunsets, crafted clay figures, and colorful drawings of their dreams. Their visions were pure and unencumbered by the doubts that often plagued adults. Each piece felt like a glimpse into their hearts, a sharing of their unfiltered faith. Just as a wave of inspiration washed over the gathering, the air turned electric. Sarah felt a shift, a deeper current of connection through their shared experiences. It was like a divine whisper, encouraging them all to let down walls, to share their struggles and dreams openly. In the audience, Sarah caught sight of Mrs. Hargrove, the village skeptic. She rarely participated in conversations, her face often distorted by doubt. But today, her brow softened as she listened to the children's joy. A flicker of something, was it hope, appeared in her eyes. Awash with gratitude and awe at how much had transformed in such a short time, Sarah glanced toward the chapel windows. Outside, the sun broke free to shine brightly, lighting up even the corners of the room that had long been shrouded in shadow. But before she could fully savor the moment, a question bubbled up within her. How far could this community go? What ripple effects would these shared stories unleash in the village and beyond? As they momentarily paused for a prayer, Sarah whispered once more, "God, guide us. I believe you have more in store for us." The amen echoed softly, but stirring it was not just noise. It was the promise of what's yet to come. And as they turned to discuss next steps, Sarah sensed the grand narrative unfolding. Would they be ready to accept any challenges, to embrace the journey God had laid out for them? What miraculous transformations awaited as they ventured deeper together? As the gathering began to pulse with life, Sarah looked around the chapel, noting the faces filled with hope. Each villager present held a thread of a story, intertwining their lives in a tapestry of faith and community. The collective energy surged as ideas about future gatherings and outreach efforts were floated in the air like the sweet scent of flowers caught in a soft breeze. Suddenly, Ellen, an older woman known for her warm heart, stood up. "I believe we should start a sharing circle," she proposed, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "A place where we can bring our joys and sorrows, our dreams and fears. Imagine the power of sharing and lifting each other up in prayer." The suggestion sent excitement rippling through the crowd. "Absolutely," Thomas agreed, his voice now vibrant with newfound courage. "We can create a time every week where anyone can come and share their stories. This could be healing not just for us, but for the entire village." A hum of agreement followed, deeper and more resonating. Sarah felt her heart swell. This was the vibrant community God had been promising them. The energy transformed into a warm embrace, igniting passion for connection and encouragement. She could already envision how such circles would unveil hidden struggles while celebrating triumphs. As the children's drawings were gathered and displayed on the walls, Sarah caught glimpses of their pure dreams. She couldn't shake the thought of how these simple acts of sharing carried divine weight. It brought her back to an ancient truth. When we share our burdens, they become lighter. And when we share our joys, they multiply. Then, in the midst of their enthusiastic discussion, Mrs. Hargrove stood. The room fell silent. Nervous yet resolute, she addressed the villagers. "I've watched you all shine in your light, and I confess I've held back. Doubt has shadowed me for too long," she began, her voice quivering slightly. "But just today, I felt something. The children's laughter touched me. I want to believe. I want to be part of this journey." Gasps of surprise seeped through the gathering, but they quickly morphed into warm smiles and nods. Sarah could hardly contain her excitement. Here stood the village skeptic, now embracing a burgeoning faith. As Mrs. Hargrove spoke, Sarah noticed tears glistening in her eyes, an undeniable sign of opening, of a heart yearning to change. The moment was profound. Her voice, once skeptical, now held a resonance of hope, echoing softly among the pillars of the chapel. What if we all took a step like that? What if we opened our hearts a little wider this week? We could make a difference, not just here, but beyond these walls. Yes, it starts with us, someone shouted from the back. A cascade of affirmations followed as the village rallied around the idea. They were awakening to the idea that faith was not a solitary walk, it was a communal journey. As the gathering waned, Sarah felt a surge of spirit. Each heart was a vessel filled with dreams, and together they could transform lives. She thought about how vibrant their community had become, fueled by every shared story and hope. The sheer power of faith reverberated through the chapel, shaking off chains of doubt that once gripped them. But as the sun dipped low, casting a golden hue across the room, Sarah felt an urgent whisper within her spirit. What would happen next? What test lay ahead that could challenge their newfound unity? The answers lingered, tantalizingly out of reach, shrouded in the mystery of God's unfolding plan. With a tingle of both excitement and apprehension, Sarah whispered inwardly, "Lord, whatever is to come, may we face it together." And in that moment, the very air seemed to shimmer with possibility. What divine challenges awaited them on this thrilling path of faith? As the glow of the sun faded, shadows danced gently across the chapel. The warmth in the room lingered, but a sense of anticipation woven with tension filled the air. Sarah observed the villagers, their animated discussions gradually settling into contemplative silence. She sensed they were all wondering, as she was, about the challenges ahead. The joyful laughter of the children now filtered through her thoughts. It reminded her that hope could thrive even in uncertainty. Yet, the voices of doubt that had once silenced her made their presence known. Would their newfound faith withstand the tests to come? A gentle breeze drifted in from the open windows, as if the very spirit was whispering, reassuring them. Suddenly, Thomas stood again. He placed a firm hand on the wooden pew, steadying himself, and spoke with heartfelt fervor. "Let's not forget, friends, faith doesn't just bring joy. It can also reveal our deepest fears. What are we truly afraid of?" Gasps rose from the gathering. Vulnerability hung heavy in the air, and Sarah felt the weight of it settle like a soft blanket over her. She could see it in the faces around her. Commitment and uncertainty, side by side. Ellen chimed in. "I've lived long enough to know that faking courage won't solve anything. If we're to stand together, let's share our fears along with our hopes." She looked around, meeting each pair of eyes with a comforting smile. We must embrace all parts of ourselves. The room quieted. Sarah's heart pounded. What truths would emerge? What unexpected burdens might be unveiled? Mrs. Hargrove seemed deep in thought. "I've hidden my fears behind a wall of skepticism," she admitted, her voice softer now. "But I fear not being accepted. What if the doubts come rushing back?" A murmur followed, as others nodded in understanding. Their shared vulnerability began knitting stronger ties. One by one, others spoke their concerns. The spectrum of fears ranged from losing loved ones to financial burdens, heart-wrenching recoils from past failures to anxieties about the future. Their honesty was raw, yet a palpable relief filled the air, gilded with the assurance that they were not alone in their struggles. In that sacred moment, Sarah felt something shift deep within her spirit. With each shared fear, a piece of doubt was lifted. It was like laying down heavy stones one by one, creating space for lightness, for divine possibility. As a warmth enveloped the room, she decided it was her turn to share. With a deep breath, she stood, allowing the light from the stained glass to wash over her. "I fear what it means to truly believe. What if the harder we pray, the further our dreams drift away? She paused, emotion catching in her throat. But I don't want to let fear silence my heart anymore. I want to step into a bold faith. The collective sigh that followed reverberated with shared resonance, a sea of faith striving to navigate through uncertainty. Just then, Sister Agnes entered softly, her presence wrapping around the room like the gentle embrace of spring rain. "Beloveds," she whispered, "you are discovering that faith without struggle is an incomplete journey. Each challenge reveals deeper treasures waiting to be unearthed." As she walked closer, her voice lifted, stirring a brightness in the hearts before her. "And remember, God never backs away from our fears. He leans in, inviting us to surrender." Tears glistened in Sarah's eyes as she thought of that invitation. Could it be that each shared fear acted as a key, unlocking doors to greater faith? As the gathering moved forward, Sarah felt an unshakable resolve begin to blossom. They were not merely sharing fears. They were laying the groundwork for miracles. Yet, as they spoke, Sarah sensed something stirring beneath the surface, an impending situation that could challenge their unity. What unseen trial lay ahead that could test their fragile courage? A collective hush spread through the chapel as uncertainty hung between them. In that sacred stillness, they waited, hearts open, ready for whatever might come next. As the echoes of silence wrapped around the chapel, Sarah could feel the weight of anticipation pressing down on them. Faces illuminated by flickering candles reflected a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Every heart present was attuned to the invisible threads weaving them together, and Sarah felt a surge of warmth, ready to embrace whatever came next. Suddenly, the chapel doors creaked open, drawing everyone's gaze. Pastor Matthew stepped in, his presence radiating assurance. His eyes scanned the room, and a smile spread across his face as he took in the vibrant gathering. "Beloved community," he began, with a voice steady and bold, "it fills me with joy to witness this unity. Yet, as you share your fears, remember, they are the very things that often hold the keys to your greatest breakthroughs." His words settled among them like fine dew on morning grass, bringing a breath of fresh energy. Our Lord does not shy away from our doubts. He embraces them, and together we can navigate the storms that lie ahead. At that moment, Sarah could feel the very air shift, the sacred promise of divine revelation tightening the bonds of their shared faith. She glanced at Thomas, who caught her eye, a glimmer of determination blooming in his heart. "Pastor," he called out, standing tall, "what if we viewed our fears as stepping stones rather than barriers? If we can discuss our struggles, then perhaps we can also talk about our actions, the choices we must make to manifest our faith." "Yes," Sarah echoed, her excitement bubbling over. "What if we used our fears to fuel our desires? What if, every time we shared a fear, we also shared a vision or a goal that we could rally around together?" The room buzzed with new energy. Sarah could feel hope stirring amongst them, each person present realizing their power to uplift both their fears and aspirations in unison. Ideas surged like waves crashing on a shore, each one building upon the last. Ellen smiled brightly. "Let's create a vision board, the tangible representation of our collective hope. Each of us can bring our dreams, and together we can glue them to a large canvas at our next gathering. We can speak life into each desire." "I love that," a voice piped up from the back. "We can hold each other accountable too. If we're working towards something together, we can pray and uplift one another." As whispers of agreement wove through the crowd, the energy crescendoed. Sarah felt the momentum building again, a beautiful testament to their unity, striding forward hand in hand. Suddenly, Mrs. Hargrove's voice rang out once more. "I will gather everyone's contributions into the vision board. It'll remind us of our commitment to each other and our faith every time we come together." Sarah grinned. Each obstacle faced had birthed something rich and life-giving, binding them together even more tenaciously. But with every surge of enthusiasm, the nagging question remained. What test would challenge this fragile unity next? Just as that thought crossed her mind, a shout from outside shattered the growing fervor. "Help!" The room erupted, hearts racing as villagers dashed to the open door. They peeked outside to see young Sam, the baker's son, scrambling back from a toppled wooden cart. Wide-eyed, he gasped. "The storm last night! The creek has flooded, and it's threatening the crops by the river. It could wash away everything." A hush fell over the crowd as fear gripped them like icy fingers. Sarah's heart sank. Their beloved creek, a lifeline for their village, facing destruction, felt insurmountable. Yet amidst the dread, something deep within her flickered. They could not allow fear to ricochet through their hearts. They had a decision to make. "God has brought us thus far," Sarah proclaimed, her voice steady despite the rising storm. "This is a moment we can step forward in unified faith. We need to act. Together, we can reinforce the banks, help each other evacuate the vulnerable, and save whatever we can." A profound stillness followed her words as the villagers processed the gravity of the situation. And in that moment, the bond they had nurtured flickered to life, warm and bright, bursting forth into action. Lifting each other's spirits, they organized as one. Sarah could see strength building as everyone rallied around, gathering tools and supplies. Each person rushed to take on roles. Some knit together sandbags, while others scurried towards the creek, talking about how to divert the water. In that whirlwind of purpose, Sarah caught sight of Mrs. Thompson, waving her hand to gather the children. "Kids, we need your creativity too. Help us write encouragement and prayer notes for our workers." "But what if we add drawings too?" a child proposed, and they seized papers, working with fervor. "It will remind us how strong we are together," Mrs. Thompson responded. As laughter and determination mingled, Sarah felt an overwhelming swell of gratitude. It was as though a veil was lifted, revealing the beauty of community in action. They would stand together against whatever awaited them. And gripped by a renewed sense of hope, she whispered aloud, "Lord, guide us through this storm, whatever it may bring. Let us not lean into fear, but rise as vessels of faith." As they worked, the rushing water cascaded with fervor, yet in the face of that tempest, hope blossomed within the sanctuary of their hearts. Each act of unity created ripples far beyond the riverbanks, their hearts growing stronger as the storm enveloped them. The camaraderie forged in action was a divine revelation. They were not just a community. They were a family forged in the fires of adversity. Each struggle created sacred stories, each miracle born not solely for one, but miraculous blessings for all. As the sun broke through the clouds, shining down upon their toil, Sarah closed her eyes for a moment. She could feel the potent possibility lying ahead. The unity already embracing the challenges could lead not just to recovery, but to a harvest of unprecedented blessings. But what unexpected miracles awaited them as they stood poised to embrace the waves? The answers hummed in the air, sacred and full of promise. Now is the moment for you to take action. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to share the blessings with the algorithm. Comment below your thoughts and reactions about this extraordinary ending. Let your voice be heard. And finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this divine manifestation unfold. Don't hesitate. Only true servants of God understand how vital it is to support our mission through these actions. Your faith can touch lives.